What's up YouTube, it's Big Rye coming at you with the third and final part of the Madden Curse series. In the first two parts, we discovered the Madden Curse has taken a demanding 8-2 lead on the Cover Boys. Next up, looking to score one for the Cover Boys is Vince Young for Madden 2008, the legendary collegiate player for the Texas Longhorns. Young had one of the best collegiate careers ever, highlighted with his impressive performance in the Longhorns' victory against the powerhouse USC Trojans in the Rose Bowl. This performance helped elevate his draft stock. The Titans made him the first quarterback off the board in the 2006 NFL Draft. In his first year, he did not disappoint. The Titans finished the year 8-8, unsurprisingly, under Jeff Fisher, but to Young's credit, he was 8-5 under center. Young had underwhelming passing statistics, which included throwing more picks than touchdowns, but he did manage to set a rookie rushing record for a quarterback. He was named Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he also made the Pro Bowl. This excitement led him to being put on the cover for Madden 2008. The Titans did finish 10-6 the next year, earning a playoff berth and an eventual loss to the San Diego Chargers in the playoffs. But like most Cover Boys, this is where things start to take a turn. Perhaps the distractions and grind at the pro level got to him, but Young began developing a poor relationship with then head coach Jeff Fisher. Despite such promise the following year, Fisher benched Young in favor of the old rifle and hooch enthusiast Kerry Collins. The talented Titans led the league that season with a franchise best 13 wins and, in my opinion, the best team in the league at that time. They lost in the playoffs in an unfortunate game to the Baltimore Ravens, but the Titans were formidable. Young rebounded with another Pro Bowl year and an 8-2 mark, succeeding Kerry Collins. He fell from grace from then on, finishing up his career after just 6 seasons for the embarrassing Dream Team Eagles. Now, as polarizing as a figure Vince Young is, I'm going to have to score this one for the Cover Boys. I was surprised to find that he had a career mark of 31 wins and only 19 losses. Technically, the Curse's criteria needs an immediate down year, and I can't call leading his team to the playoffs a drop-off in play. Actually, it was an improvement. Young really is just more of a tale of untapped potential. That's 8 for the Madden Curse and 3 for the Cover Boys. Now, for the cover art of Madden 2009, they took the opportunity to celebrate the career of quarterback legend Brett Favre, who had one of his many retirements, but not his last. While supposedly in retirement, Favre decided to come back and play for the Jets. Now, there was an unfortunate phallus photo sent to a young Jets intern. Not really Big Rye's type, but the fat guy can't blame him. With that type of stature, you know the evidence will haunt you forever. Despite all of this, Favre had a pretty decent season with the Jets, compiling a 9-7 record, including an impressive 47-3 victory over the Rams in Week 10, the largest margin of victory in franchise history. Now, that was Favre's Madden cover season. The follow-up season was most certainly improved upon after a couple more retirements. Favre shamed his local Green Bay fan base and signed with the rival Minnesota Vikings. He led the Vikings to a 12-4 record while also recording a personal best 1.3% interception rate. Quite low, I must say. The season unfortunately ended with somewhat of a disaster. A poor decision interception in the NFC Championship game to the eventual Super Bowl winning New Orleans Saints. Coming to judgment on the Curse, I gotta give this one to the Cover Boys. Brett Favre, the NFL leader in interceptions, throwing a pick to close out a playoff game can hardly be attributed to the video game Supernatural. Madden Curse 8, Cover Boys 4. Madden 2010, like the one it succeeded, did something a little different with its cover. It had 2 competing players on the cover of the previous Super Bowl. The Steelers' menacing safety Troy Polamalu and the ageless wonder Larry Fitzgerald. The Madden Curse affects everyone differently. Fitzgerald continued his consistency and managed to stave off injury while setting personal bests in touchdowns for the 2009 season and breaking 1,000 yards the next 2. Polamalu, on the other hand, had an unfortunate 2009. Troy suffered an MCL injury, missed most of the season, and was not invited to the Pro Bowl. This is the only season he missed the Pro Bowl between 2004 and 2011. When it comes to judgment here, we're going to have to give this a wash. Madden Curse 8, Cover Boys 4. The Madden cover would go back to the norm of a future Hall of Famer type offensive player. The cover featured New Orleans quarterback Drew Brees. Brees was pretty consistent during his run of success with the Saints. In 2010, his cover year, he managed to go 11-5, making the Pro Bowl and leading his team to the playoffs, where they eventually lost to the improbable Seattle Seahawks, the first team in NFL history to make the playoffs with a losing record. The Marshawn Lynch run in that game will forever live in infamy, and if there's a good way to lose, I would say that the run and the story combined is worth it. Now, despite going out as 14-point road favorites in the playoffs, I wouldn't attribute it to a curse. The following years, Brees led the team to a 13-3 record, setting a career in passing yards, and oddly just one short of the all-time single-season record. Madden Curse 8, Cover Boys 5. Now, the cover of Madden 2012 will fill in the gap of bizarre career cover boys. The cover featured the hybrid fullback running back Peyton Hillis of the Cleveland Browns. Hillis was a 7th-round fullback, but his combine was impressive. 240 pounds, 4.57 42nd yard dash, 26 reps on the bench press, and a shocking score of 45 on the Wonderlic. Hillis was drafted by the Broncos and eased into his rookie season with limited playing time, mostly due to injury, but somehow led the Broncos in rushing with 343 yards. The following year, the Broncos brought in a new coach, Josh McDaniels, following the firing of legendary coach Mike Shanahan. McDaniels and co. drafted Noshawn Moreno in the first round, setting the tone for a limited usage season for Hillis. He only garnered 54 rushing yards on the ground, but Cleveland pounced on this underutilization and added him as a throw-in for failed quarterback Brady Quinn. This inaugural Cleveland season is what burst Hillis onto the Madden cover. Hillis shed his fullback positional grouping and embraced his running back role with 1,177 yards on the ground, 11 touchdowns, and an even more impressive 61 catches for 477 yards. Now, Hillis, I will admit, wasn't even a top 10 rusher in 2011. Arian Foster had an exceptional year, but the 7th-round pick fullback story is much too hard to pass up for a cover dawning. But the curse most certainly came into play following Hillis' cover season. Hillis had squabbles with management over pay, as well as missing games with a hamstring injury, and one game somehow he missed due to strep throat. His production plummeted to 587 yards while dipping to a massively underwhelming 1.2 yards per carry. Hillis' negotiating leverage took a serious hit after this season, and despite offering a home-time discount, was let go by the Browns and played very little football of significance, retiring in 2015. One more to add to the Madden Curse. Madden Curse 9, Cover Boys 5. Madden 2013 featured a receiver for the first time outside of Larry Fitzgerald. One of the fat guy's personal favorites, Calvin Johnson. Megatron didn't quite get his due because of the lack of success of the Detroit Lions. But Johnson had 1,681 yards receiving in 2011, helping him garner his Madden 2013 cover nod. What was to follow would certainly be a shot against the curse. Johnson set an NFL record for receiving the following year with 1,964 yards. To give some concession though, his touchdown production dipped from a career-high 16 touchdowns to just 5. But that's more happenstance and attention from opposing defenses in the red zone. There's no chance setting an NFL record for receiving in a season could have any correlation with a curse. Madden Curse 9, Cover Boys 6. Madden 2014 was sold as Madden NFL 25. Now there were 2 covers. One featured old legend Barry Sanders, who we covered in part 1, and the other featured running back and switch-hitting stalwart AP Adrian Peterson. Peterson returned from an ACL and MCL tear in just 8 months. The fat guy did the same thing 5 years ago, and look at him now. Despite such short recovery time, Peterson rushed for an astounding 2,097 yards, just falling 8 yards short of Eric Dickerson's single-season record. He won Offensive Player of the Year, as well as League MVP. Peterson was also ranked number 1 by his peers in the NFL Top 100 Players list for 2013. This put Peterson on the cover of Madden NFL 25. Peterson's cover season was reasonable, but not quite as astronomical as the season before. He missed 2 games, but still rushed for 1,266 yards and 10 touchdowns. Post-cover season could be considered a curse season in that it was negative, but I can't excuse poor decision-making for the act of the supernatural. Peterson played in just one game and had to remain away from all team activities due to child abuse charges. In light of this, we have no choice but to call it a wash. Madden Curse 9, Cover Boys 6. The Madden 2015 cover featured a cornerback for the first time. Richard Sherman, the most vocal of Seattle's fabled Legion of Boom defense. During his cover selection year, Sherman led the league in interceptions, and the Seahawks captured the Super Bowl for the first time. During his cover season, Sherman made consecutive trips to the Pro Bowl as an All-Pro again, as well as the Super Bowl with the defending Seattle Seahawks. That game ended with the amazing Malcolm Butler interception, but it was most certainly a solid season. The following season, he was still a Pro Bowler and managed to play another full, healthy season. The only negative one could draw is his interception total dipped from 8 to 4 to 2 over the 3-year span. Madden Curse 9, Cover Boys 7. Madden 2016 featured its youngest ever cover boy, Odell Beckham Jr. His Madden cover selection season also happened to be his rookie season. Despite only starting 11 games and playing in 12, Beckham averaged an amazing 108.8 yards per game and 1,305 total receiving yards. He also caught 12 touchdown passes, leading him to be named NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, along with a trip to the Pro Bowl, the first Giants rookie ever to do so at the wide receiver position. In his rookie year, Beckham showcased a light and cleat quickness that the NFL seemed to have never seen before. And maybe they didn't want to. The following year, his cover season, Beckham was nearly as effective per game, catching 96 balls for 1,450 yards and 13 touchdowns. He earned another trip to the Pro Bowl despite the Giants' struggles. Following his cover year, he caught a career-high 101 balls, but his averages in nearly every other category dipped, most likely to the extra attention from the opposing male players. That's 9 for the Madden Curse and 8 for the Cover Boys. The Madden 2017 cover stuck with offense and a tight end for the first time. Rob Gronkowski graced the cover with a Gronk spike. In his cover selection year, Gronkowski had his second best year as a pro, getting 1,176 receiving yards as well as 11 touchdowns. I would highlight the Patriots' coinciding success, but it would be redundant at this point. Gronk's cover season, though, is a bit more interesting because of how it stands out. The physical nature of arguably the NFL's greatest tight end started to show signs of effect. Gronkowski missed 2 games due to a hamstring injury, limiting him in the following 2. He also got a bruised lung from a big hit by Seattle safety Earl Thomas, which caused him to miss a week. Upon his return, he suffered a back injury and needed surgery to repair a herniated disc. This resulted in Gronk being put on IR and missing the remainder of the season, including having to watch the Patriots miraculously come back down 28-3 to the Atlanta Falcons in Super Bowl 51. I must say that Gronk was never really the same after that season, physically, from a viewing standpoint. He was still the most dependable when you needed him in the clutch, but this season was certainly instrumental in his decision to retire a couple years later. Madden Curse 10, Cover Boys 8. Somehow Madden 2018 was the first time to have Tom Brady on the cover. During Brady's cover year, it was statistically near his best. 581 attempts, 4,577 yards, 32 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. He led the Patriots to a 13-3 record, and yet another trip to the Pro Bowl as an All-Pro as well as the Super Bowl. The one drawback is the Patriots fell in the Super Bowl to the Philadelphia Eagles. He followed that year with a reasonable year statistically for him, as well as a Super Bowl victory over the LA Rams. Forces of nature supersede the curse for Brady. Madden Curse 10, Cover Boys 9. Madden 2019 has diva receiver Antonio Brown on the cover. Brown assuredly deserves recognition and a cover presence. His 2017 season that led him to the cover had Brown with 101 receptions, 1,533 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Brown followed it up in 2018 with 104 receptions, 1,297 yards, and 15 touchdowns. Safe to say that the Madden Curse had little effect on Antonio Brown's age 29 and age 30 seasons. It will be interesting to see if Brown can continue his impressive production for John Gruden, the Oakland Raiders, and fantasy owners alike. Madden Curse 10, Cover Boys 10. That brings us to our current cover boy, Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes had an electric Madden cover selection season which saw him lead the Chiefs to the AFC Championship, a divisional title, a 12-4 record, over 5,000 yards passing, as well as NFL MVP honors. Mahomes is an exciting player, most assuredly deserving of this honor. Now, you've been with me this long. How does the past predict the future? And does the Madden Curse even exist? Straight up, the curse doesn't exist. What a lot of the cover boys experience is regression to the mean. Regression to the mean is considered a statistical phenomenon, so the supernatural is built into its scientific definition, ironically. If you were to graph the success of all of the players in this series, it would be at the ceiling of their abilities. That's not to say that they aren't capable of replicating their success. They most certainly are. But it is to say that it is not likely. If you roll 2 dice, sometimes you'll roll 12, sometimes you'll roll 2, but most of the time you're going to roll a 7. The cover boys represent rolls of 11s and 12s, so that pace is unlikely to continue. Not to mention there are external factors that attempt to stymie their success. When the league becomes aware of a player's talents, they often go out of their way to slow them down, which in turn makes way for another player to showcase their abilities. So as far as Patrick Mahomes is concerned, he is more than likely going to throw less than his astounding 50 touchdowns, as well as his 5,381 yards he had last season. Mahomes is a great player, but assuming similar production is almost foolish. The final note I have yet to address is injuries. There isn't extensive complete data that I know of regarding injuries as far as I know, but they are a common occurrence. Even more so in a sport with as much contact as football, the longer a player plays, the less spry he'll tend to be, increasing the chance of an injury. Injuries will happen, Madden Curse or not. Thanks for watching the entire Madden Curse series. Here's a special shout out to the very special Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Hopefully they can have a successful 2019-2020 season, leading the Chiefs to the promised land.